Hey guys, welcome to Coronavirus and Property Investors. Today we're covering stagflation. Is it an economic certainty or is it a bit of a fantasy? And the answer, if you don't want to watch the rest of the video, is basically I think that it is possible, but I think given what's happening right now with the governments around the world and their commitment to the individuals and the small businesses and the very different approach from 2008, is that it's probably unlikely. Okay, I think it would need to breach our trust and our confidence, and actually, for once, excluding the USA, we're building lots of trust and confidence, or the governments are building lots of trust and confidence in the people. So that's good news. It is a very marked difference from 2008, where governments around the world did top-down economics, where they basically stimulated at the top and hoped that it was trickle down economics. It didn't work. It didn't work. And in the UK, we had 10 years of austerity because of that failure. Whereas we could have been out a lot quicker had we actually faced up to it and done what we've done now. So anyway, but let's start off. Let's get into it. We'll start off with the other stuff. So basically, look, we've got 10 days left on my 30-day countdown. 8 days if you're counting from Boris's lockdown, 21 days. And bottom line is with that is we're looking. I mean, right now this week is the deciding week, and I think really London, if we don't see cases submitted, and then obviously critical cases and then deaths will follow through. But if we see the cases, new cases dropping, that's actually good news for London. But we may see the ripple out. But hopefully, touch wood, we've got the lockout has happened. And we may actually have caught it, and we may see that we're starting to get to the top of that bell curve as I was discussing. So yeah, but 2020 is still cancelled. That's a given now. 1.431 million people affected with cases, 82,000 deaths. USA is just still getting hammered, but the glimmer of hope is that New York, the number of cases has dropped off, which is good, and obviously that will filter through to the number of deaths, and hopefully they can get on the other side of that cycle. For New York, obviously the ripple is still going to come through most other places in the US. But UK, where I think this is decision week, this is where it's really going to be painful with the amount of deaths. Most amount of deaths yesterday. That's likely to continue. So we'll see how that goes. But look, let's focus on recovery, because really that's what I want to focus on. Look, there's 384,000 outcomes. Sorry, that 1.34 million. So roughly 25% of cases have actually had outcomes, whether that be passing away or whether that be recovering. And 79% of those cases, 302,209, have recovered. So 79%. Obviously, the alternative is that there's been the rest of deaths. So around 82,000 deaths. That's just, in fact, it says over weekend, that I should say, since yesterday, there's 37,000 more recoveries. So that's good news. That's something to celebrate, and we're hoping that figure continues to go up, and the actual figure starts to drop down, but that will come in time. All right, let's talk about stagflation. So stagflation is an interesting one, because we can talk about inflation, because inflation is generally always there, and that's the sort of standard. And we try and keep inflation at 2% per year, because that's good for governments. It allows them to borrow, it allows them to take on debt, and allows them to decrease the value of the debt. Stagflation isn't very good, and the problem with stagflation is not if it's very short-lived, but the problem is stagflation can be very long-lived, because you're in this situation where the government's printing money, inflation prices are rising, unemployment is rising, and you've got this GDP and demand dropping. So the economy's not producing, okay, but prices are still going up, and the problem is one of the tools that most governments will use, or most central banks will use, is they'll pump more money into the economy. So monetary policy and also fiscal policy through the governments, through borrowing and things like that. But the issue is, the more money they pump in, the more prices inflate, and the more obviously unemployment goes up, GDP drops, and demand drops. And so you're in this challenge where it's almost a race to the bottom, and you've got to really sort of look at that. So that's inflation. So this is those four things. Downwards GDP, downwards demand, increasing unemployment, increasing prices. Okay, that is the challenge. All right. So is stagflation likely? Now look, I talk about in another video in my manual car analogy, where what we've got to find and what the government has to find, not us as individuals, but the government has to find, is the biting point. You know, you've got the accelerator and the clutch. Yeah. If you ride the clutch, then your country stalls. If you put too much stimulus in, you end up with inflation. Yeah. If you stall the car totally, yeah, you end up with potentially a depression. All right. So, you know, this is where you've got to look at, you know, sorry, deflation, not depression. Depression is the worst of all outcomes, you know, realistically. But I'm not actually that concerned about a depression situation right now. I think because the way people have handled it, into the governments around the world have handled it by injecting money into the individuals and the small businesses to keep them from losing staff, you're not going to have the masses of unemployment, possibly, okay? So you've got to get that biting point, and that biting point allows the economy to take off smoothly like a manual car, okay? But look, bottom line is, you know, the direct investments in individuals, you know, that means that there's less unemployment. Less unemployment means that there's money available to go back into the economy to kickstart it, yeah? And that's really what we want to kickstart demand, kickstart the GDP, and get it back. You know, we've pressed the pause button on the economy. Now what we want to do is we want to press the play button when it's suitable and we can come out of that, you know. And the sooner we can come out of that, every country worldwide, then the sooner we'll start to get back into growth and get back into that. Now, the danger is this, and if you own a business out there, the one thing I'm going to say is this, if you're not careful, yeah, I own a business, a sales business, and the sales business starts at zero every day. Now, what I have to be very careful of is this. We've gone into this coronavirus. Now, what we've done is we've actually, you know, through furloughing our staff in that particular business, because our income has dropped to virtually zero, we've furloughed the staff. We've still got some costs that I need to sort out, but, you know, that's fine. I'm comfortable with that. And I have multiple streams of income and that, which hopefully you have too. But if you haven't and you're relying on that, then what you've got to look at is, right, now when they press play on the economy, what happens? You may take 3 months. In my business, it takes 3 months to get from no sales to sales, yeah? So to get cash coming in the door for that particular business, all right? So I've got to look at my cash flows and I've got to look at how I kickstart that business. And effectively, if the furlough stops, I've got to now fund that business for 3 months before it gets back into making its own money. Now, if the government says, press button, go, furlough, stop, now I'm as an entrepreneur and as a business owner and as an employer, I've got to sit there and go, can I afford that 3 months? If I can't, well, then the likelihood is I'm going to say, right, guys, unfortunately, redundancies, you know, half of you guys are leaving or whatever it is. Now, then that will increase the unemployment rate. The unemployment rate increases if lots of businesses do that. So it's important and it's paramount that the government looks at how we come out of this. So guys, you know, Boris, if you're listening from your hospital bed, you know, just consider this. Rishi, I'm sure you're listening anyway. But bottom line is, you need to think about how we come out of this. We can't just press play, stop everything, back to normal. We've got to ease back into this, okay? And I think that's important. You know, and look, bottom line is, it is as much about increasing demand and getting consumers to spend and, you know, goods and services and all that sort of stuff, as it is about maintaining trust and confidence in the government, in their policies, and in their approach. And if they do that, then they get it right, then actually, potentially, we can press play, and it probably takes 3 months, you know, to come out and be back into normal sort of trading, and probably 6 months before we start seeing, you know, a full economy again. That's probably the ideal case, okay? Now, my question is this: how can you, as a property investor, take advantage of this, you know, this you know, press button and the 3 months, you know? Because what you've got to realize, look, high inflation, first of all, if we have inflation, which we are likely to do because they're pumping lots of money into the economy, okay, your mortgage debt will be less, yeah? Inflation degrades the value of your mortgage over time, and that will work out. So high inflation actually helps property investors from that perspective, but it doesn't necessarily help the economy, okay? You don't really want, and that's why they pitch at 2%, because it's a good amount of inflation, all right? But if it's running 5%, 10%, you know, that's starting to get too high, and that's where they start to, you know, on the one hand, if they've got a stalled economy, and all of a sudden their normal tricks and their normal things are to, damp down the economy to stop prices rising. Well, they can't do that. Yeah, so they're restricted in what they can do. Anyway, what do you have to do? So what is you as a property investor or as an employer or as an employee? First of all, get together your war chest, because you might have to have that 3 months, or in your business it might be a month, it might be 6 months, whatever it is. One of my mates, he sells aircraft, and his cycle is 12 to 24 months that he has to nurture someone before he gets a sale. All right, so he's got to be really careful that his business may have to fund him for that amount of time before they see more sales coming through. Yeah. Now, get your plans out, work your plans out. Your business may have changed. You may have to pivot. Your job may have changed. You may have to pivot. Your career may have changed. You may have to pivot. Yeah. So you got to look at these things and really get a sense for what's happening. Then what I talk about is two scenarios. One, which is what happens if interest rates go, up by say 2 to 4%. If you run those two scenarios, can you afford at 2%? Can you afford at 4%? Increase across all your mortgages. If you can, then you can probably sit back and relax from that perspective. The other side is, act as if you've lost your job and it takes you 3 months to get another job at 80% of what you're previously earning. And if you can survive that, if you can survive the 4%, 2%, 4% and that, well, then you're probably sitting pretty, I think. It's a good scenario to run, yeah, because what it does, it allows you to sleep at night and you're not worried as much about what's going on out in the marketplace, all right? The other side is, as an entrepreneur, as an employee, as a species, we've been working so bloody hard. We've been bloody, we're like, if you're looking down from space, I'm sure, the aliens up there are looking down going, look at these ants running around like headless chooks. Ants running around. Anyway, don't worry about that. But bottom line is, we've been running so hard. Take some time to recover. Take a couple of weeks off. We've probably got it. You've probably got a good couple of weeks where you can just sit back, relax, recuperate, and allow those ideas and the creativity to flow. And I think if you do that, that will really get you some clarity around ideas. Be open to new ideas. But by the same token, what I'm saying is, get back into it then. Plan out what it is. And then what you need to do is get ready for when they press play, because at that stage, massive action, getting in there and getting out there and really getting on top. The government has done the right thing in what they've done with furloughing and stimulating and all these packages. Now, once they press play again, it's our responsibility, everybody's responsibility, to kick things off, get things moving, and not be stopped by the virus. Or the outcomes of the virus. But look, guys, that sort of hopefully gives you a bit of idea of stagflation. It's a pretty simple concept. Do I think it's going to happen? It is a possibility. Do I think it is going to happen? I don't, and the reason I don't is because actually, I think this direct stimulus to people in business is going to have a profound effect on the confidence in the governments, on a lot of things like that. And yes, we're always paying out. I'm the best at it. Taking the piss out of the governments and politicians and all that sort of stuff. But I have to say, they've done pretty well this time. They really have. Excluding US, I think that's a pathetic case of thing. But the bottom line is they've done a really good thing. Most governments around the world that have enabled the unemployment rate to stay relatively low compared to what it could have been, because pausing an entire world economy pretty much, which is what it has done, 2/3 of the world, is a massive risk. But I think, touch wood, it may pay off. But in any case, prepare for it, get your war chest, get your plans. If you have to pivot, run your scenarios so you can sleep at night, and then get ready to run hard, but take some time to recuperate and take some time, to really focus on getting that creative juices flowing, because times are changing. AI, robots, automation, all these sort of things are coming to your industry. I don't care who it is. So that's a bit offside. We can talk about that in another video. But guys, so stagflation, hopefully that gives you a bit of an understanding of stagflation and what my thoughts are. But yeah, make sure you subscribe, comment. I'm happy to answer any questions, happy to record videos in response and whatever you want to know. And yeah, stay safe, stay healthy, and stay at home right now. And we'll speak to you real soon. See you later, guys. Bye.